Hey, everybody. Welcome to On the Hot Seat with me, Bob Harris, senior editor of footballdiehards.com. It's week 14. We got a lot going on, everybody. A lot of stuff going on. I remember last week when we came in, I said, hey, it's lucky week 13. Well, it's not so lucky, or hasn't been so lucky, or wasn't so lucky for everybody. A lot of changes, a lot of moving pieces. We have a lot of buys this week as well, so that's going to be a little bit of an issue. How do you like the new room? I'm like in this cool room. This is crazy, right? Anyhow, once we got the sound fixed, we're on to bigger and better things, right? We'll let everyone kind of gather around and join the conversation here. I'll be taking your questions, of course. If you remember, it would be great for you to use names, first initial with the last name, and who the player is playing if you're asking lineup questions. It's early in the week. I'm still battling through things. Just finished my team notes up at the footballdiehards.com website. So check those out if you get a chance. Also, plenty of other content, tools, and all the things you need to have some success heading into week 14. Keep a step ahead of the competition. So thanks for coming on. We'll be talking about a few things here before. Hey, Charles, I'll talk about a few things before we get into the questions while you're all gathering up and figuring out what you want to ask. Obviously, some issues going on. Josh Jacobs listed as questionable for Thursday Night Football. He's been listed as questionable the last 2 weeks, and what he's run for racked up 450 plus yards of offense and 3 touchdowns. I think he should be okay. Working on a limited basis with that calf injury. Darren Waller and Hunter Renfro eligible to return from IR. That'll be something to watch leading up to kickoff tomorrow. The prevailing thought is that they won't make it back this weekend. Limited week of practice, all walkthroughs, so probably not going to be there as well. On the other side of the ball, it gets interesting. Matthew Stafford out for the rest of the year, or essentially placed on IR 4 games. Don't look for him to come back. He has a bruised spinal column or cord, excuse me. And John Wolford, who would be the starter, is listed as questionable. They got a new kid in there. It's Baker Mayfield kid. They picked up off waivers. A lot of talk today. Sean McVay talked about it at length that he could be active, Baker Mayfield. Could he play? Adam Schefter says that a source told him it's a long shot, but it's possible. Obviously not a desirable outcome for anyone involved. A horrible offensive line, limited receiving weapons. Cam Akers came on last week, and it's a good matchup for him. So, so a good situation for Cam Akers, maybe. But is that like something you trust? Totally. We had a lot of weird running back situations over the course of the last week, and we'll probably have questions about those as we work through the evening here. So Baker Mayfield, the Rams quarterback, could be Bryce Perkins, could be Baker Mayfield, could be John Wolford. Nobody knows. I don't know if anyone wants to know. It's a bad situation, even against the Raiders defense. So, anyhow, moving on. Lamar Jackson not listed as question, but not expected to play. According to Adam Schefter, posterior cruciate ligament sprain. That's a 1 to 3 week injury. John Harbaugh essentially said, he's week to week, but probably not this week. That means Tyler Huntley. And I'll talk about Tyler Huntley here in a minute. San Francisco, no Jimmy Garoppolo. Brock Purdy is the man. They say he has a lot of moxie, that kid. So that'll be interesting. We'll kind of break that down a little bit. Beyond that, Joe Mixon looks like he's heading back or getting close to heading back. Kenneth Walker III seems very dicey to me. Trevor Lawrence should play. Tua Tagovailoa should play. Patrick Mahomes should play. A lot of the quarterbacks that are a little nicked up should play. The receivers maybe less so. Treylon Burks in the concussion protocol seems unlikely. We'll have some work to do to get through the concussion protocol. John Robinson fired. That's what happens when the guy you traded away spanks you. AJ Brown comes back into his revenge game and exacts that revenge. Although I don't know if it was revenge. He got what he wanted. He's playing with his friend Jalen Hurts and a great offense. He got paid. Whatever he wanted. I don't know if it was revenge or not, but just maybe a. Hi, Andrea. Nice to see you. Mike Williams, day-to-day, did get into limited practice today. Seems like he's getting closer to coming back. Cortland Sutton doesn't look good for him. Broncos offense, and they're averaging under 14 points a game. Just been a mess. Hard to find reliable pieces. Sutton kind of we felt like was one. Maybe Dulcich now. So going to be a tough row to hoe there. Anyway, so those are some of the issues that we'll be looking at and we'll be talking about. I want to talk in particular, though, about the quarterback situations for Baltimore and for San Francisco and what it means for us as fantasy managers before I get to the questions. And by the way, it's a Bye-mageddon week. So you might have needs to play some of these players, right? We've got Atlanta out. We've got who else? Atlanta, Chicago, I want to say the Packers, Colts, Saints, and Commanders. So 16. Atlanta, Chicago, Green Bay, Indianapolis, New Orleans, and Washington. From players you probably want to play, right? So this is going to be a tough week to navigate as is, and some of these issues that we're going to be talking about add the complexity of that. So do some of the running back situations. The kind of surprising developments, whether it was, look, we saw Zonovan Knight come on. Michael Carter's off the injury report this week. Robert Saleh said this morning, Zonovan Knight's still going to have a role. Is he's going to be the starter? Is it going to be a split? There's some things to suss out there as we head into the weekend that seem a little uncertain. Like, I don't know if I'd be forcing either of them into lineups. Maybe they're both playing, but we saw for San Francisco or for Miami, we saw kind of a reversal. Raheem Mostert was the lead piece, and Jeff Wilson Jr. took a back seat. For Baltimore, Gus Edwards took a back seat to Kenyon Drake, kind of out of the clear blue, right? Didn't expect it at all. And of course, the running back intrigue in Seattle due to injuries will have to be sorting through. Could it be Travis Homer this week? Tony Jones Jr. Just a lot to figure out. But starting in Baltimore with Jackson out, we've seen this movie before, right? Tyler Huntley played last year. It was pretty effective. He kind of does a lot of the things that Lamar Jackson does, right? Which is kind of convenient for us. Most notably, he runs. And if we go back to last year's numbers on the games he started, just going back, I think it was the down the stretch run. First game he started, he had 72 yards rushing, which was very good, right? Played reasonably well. I want to say, what was the numbers? Down the stretch. Since 2018, I have the numbers in front of me. Here we go. So passing yards. So it was week 13. He played against Chicago. He came in when Lamar Jackson got sick. Threw the ball reasonably well. Had 40 rushing yards. The next game, his next start was against Cleveland week 14. Had 45 rushing yards. Then 73 rushing yards the next week. Then 54. Then 72. Those are the kind of numbers we're after, right? That gives him a bit of a floor. I think he's kind of a plug and play option. If you're looking, if you have Lamar Jackson and you go out the waiver wire and hit, and grab Tyler Huntley, I think you can feel pretty comfortable with the production. Remember, Lamar Jackson has not been top 10 every week. In fact, most weeks he's not. Hasn't been this year, right? So, as for the receiving components here, it's a little dicier, but you're still playing Mark Andrews. And I'll remind you, last year, down that stretch run, without Lamar Jackson, they leaned even more heavily on Mark Andrews. And he went from tight end 2 to tight end 1 and overtook Travis Kelce to finish as a tight end 1. So there's something like there. I think the receivers, you're still playing the ones you have if you have to, right? I don't think anyone was eager to force DeMarcus Robinson or Devin Duvernay into lineups, but both are playable. Isaiah Likely might still be playable, right? So, had a pretty decent role last week. These are kind of, I don't want to say break glass in case of emergency, but right on the verge of that, right? I mean, not desirable plays, but viable plays. I think there's something to be said for that on a 6 teams on bye week and with all the other intrigue and injury issues going on. For San Francisco, I don't know that you really dial back too much on the pieces. Like, do I have concerns for Brandon Ayuk? Sure. Deebo Samuel? Maybe a little bit. George Kittle? Didn't see much. But I think this is kind of how this offense has been. Not all those guys are going to be productive every week. You're still playing them because it's a very potent offense. I think you might do the same with Brock Purdy at quarterback. Maybe dial back expectations a little bit. I think Christian McCaffrey is a little bit of a winner here. Maybe some check downs, some quick passes out. We saw Jordan Mason backing up Christian McCaffrey. It seems to be his job, the Elijah Mitchell role with Mitchell out. Saw no Tyrion Davis-Price in this one. So I think it's a pretty obvious plays. I think you're going to still play McCaffrey. You're still playing Deebo. You're still playing Brandon Ayuk if you've been playing him. George Kittle is still one of the top tight ends, but you have to be ready for some misses. I think all these offenses, like we talk about Buffalo's offense, right? I want to play Josh Allen. I want to play Stephon Diggs. After that, it's more I can play, right? I mean, it's an explosive offense. Any of the ancillary pieces might be great in any given week, and they might disappear. According to Gabe Davis, it's either a single digit or double digit. You can get a big game or you can get single digit scoring. So I think that's the same for Isaiah McKenzie and the running backs there as well. I know I've seen some questions about the running backs already, so we'll get into that as well. But I don't think these are, these injuries to Huntley, or to Lamar Jackson and Garoppolo are not death knells for the rest of the offense. And I think that's the good news there. The running back situation, Seattle, we'll get into. The quarterback situation in Los Angeles, I don't want anything to do with that. Maybe I could play Cam Akers if I needed to. I don't know that there's other opportunities that are arising from the depleted receiving core in this one. Tutu Atwell, yeah, probably not playing. I mean, he came on a little bit, and maybe he's everything the Rams hoped he would be, and but he's not everything fantasy managers need. So there we have it, kind of setting the table. The injury report's out and up on the website if you want to get a look at that. We'll have our staff rankings up. Emo Cadlic's first opinion cheat sheet is up right now, so you can check that out on the website. Also, if you aren't familiar, I'm on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio 5 damn days a week, or nights and days. You can catch me Monday, Thursday, and Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. We go to 1 a.m. on Monday and Thursday. We go to midnight on Friday. You can catch me Saturday nights, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. on both the Fantasy Channel and the NFL Radio Channel. And then on Sunday, you can catch me on the pregame show with Jeff Manis, 1101. You can also catch me here on the YouTube channel at noon every Saturday. Do the questions again. Probably give you better answers than I'm going to give you tonight because, all right, there's a lot of mystery and intrigue still out there. You know, I'll grind through these things and we'll talk through and try to come up with some reasonable approaches to some of these situations. But Saturday, when we have more of the information, I can dial that in a little more. And also, you can catch our DFS lineup show. I believe will be Saturday night this week after going Friday with Jamie Calandro and Eric Romoff. Email, you can correct me if that's wrong in the chat, but otherwise, expect that. Tons of content up on the website as well. Go there, check it out. Will Power has questions. How much bad would I spend on James Cook? He's bidding $11 of his 37 left. He wants to replace Gus Edwards. Understandable. I'd much rather have a league make deal with that running back heading. So I was thinking about this today. Do I really think that James Cook is the momentum enough for me to get off Devin Singletary? I have a decision to make in the league. Probably not. I think it's going to be a fairly even split, but it's a potent offense. Again, I think wanting a piece of that is understandable. I might bid more than 11. I mean, we're getting down to to tough times. I mean, and I tend to want to save a little bit towards the end of the season as well for emergencies. In this case, I might go half of what I have just to make sure I land. I think other people are going to be interested. Will also wants to know which quarterback has the most value rest of the season, Mike White or Derek Carr. Looking for a backup in case. Well, I mean, for me, Derek Carr, if you're playing Derek Carr, you're playing Devontae Adams. And I would like to play that every week if I could. Let me just take a quick look. If you go to the website, we have an easy schedule page up there that kind of tells you what's going on. So let's just check the schedule going forward. Just for me, Mike White has been phenomenal. Teammates love him, right? And I'm fine with him. But like if something happened, they keep talking they want to go back to Zach Wilson. I don't know that they will. If something did happen to Mike White, I think they would go back to Joe Flacco. But if they hit a point where things aren't going well or there's a bad game, would they be quick to go back? I don't know that they would be quick to go back. So, but Derek Carr definitely has more security. So we got games coming up for the Jets against, Week 15 Detroit, Week 16 Jacksonville. That's pretty damn appealing, right? So that would be interesting for the Raiders. Who are we looking at down the stretch? It's going to be New England, Pittsburgh after this week's game against the Rams. So Pittsburgh, pretty favorable matchup as well. I mean, I feel more comfortable with Carr just knowing he has a solid job security. I think Mike White has security. I don't know that he has security. They want to get him back. So I might have a slight lean to Carr. Other options are Huntley and Heineke. Goff would be the option for me. Heineke, I think, is pretty secure, but Carson Wentz is there. I mean, they're a step away. I think Carr is the safest pick for me, and he has Devontae Adams. Craig Schmucker, would you trade Purdy in a fourth for Renfro in a Superflex PPR dynasty? I don't know what you're going to get out of Renfro down the stretch. It wasn't that great going forward. I don't know if I wouldn't want to keep Purdy away from somebody else, but that is a fair return, fourth rounder as well. I mean, Purdy obviously has a shelf life this year. Marlon Asaguera, tight end question. Gerald Everett playing Miami versus Greg Dulcich playing KC. Like Dulcich is kind of coming on a little bit. We're kind of keen on him when he first came back from IR. Seems to be an ideal piece. They loved him over the offseason. We have not seen any sign of Albert Okwuegbunam. Say it right. I mean, it's the Dulcich show, right? They have some other pieces there, and look, they have receiving issues there. Cortland Sutton probably not going to play, and Nathaniel Hackett mentioned this earlier this week that basically Dulcich is playing a wide receiver position, like working on slot, etc. I might lean Dulcich here, but because it hasn't been great. I mean, it's been solid forever. I mean, and by solid, I mean you can play him every week, right? That's the first, and at tight end, that's like there's something to be said for that. My problem with Dulcich is he plays for the Denver Broncos. They still score a lot of points. I think he's viable. I'm just checking Gerald Everett's scoring on the weekly 14, 13, 4, 17, 7, 11, 8, 4, 5, 13. I mean, it's been all over the place a little bit, more double digits than not. So maybe that's probably the safer play. But I feel like I'm leaning both. So Everett definitely the safer play. The more consistent, has a great quarterback in a more explosive offense. I don't want to get too, I don't want to outsmart myself. This is the time of year when we have to be careful about outsmarting ourselves. All right, we start making these decisions based on a narrow band of information. I'm going to probably play the same play Everett. Also, are Cam Akers, Connor Williams trustable at all in lineups? No, neither of them are trustable. If you don't need to play either, I wouldn't. I mean, I was interested that Cam Akers got that run last week. And the Raiders, you can run against them, so maybe there's something to be said for that. I don't know that I trust it. I don't know that I take one game, and he did. He had like 72% snap share. This is unusual. He hadn't had 50% snap share all season long. So don't know that this is a trend or not. I think maybe he's their best option with the limited pieces at other positions, right? So I don't trust him. If you have better options, I'm looking for better options if at all possible. The offensive line is horrible there, Marlon. They started their 12th different starting combination last week, and it's just been a mess all year. We've seen it, so I'd probably avoid them if at all possible. If I couldn't avoid them, I'd play Akers over Williams this week. That would be my choice. Chuck Bachman, good evening. Two parts question. Standard League, DeAndre Hopkins in New England or Christian Kirk versus Tennessee? Also Zeke versus Texans or Jamal Williams versus Minnesota? I'll probably play a Zeke against the Texans. I have nothing against Jamal Williams. It seemed like DeAndre Swift came on. That was another one of the switches, right? We have seen, Jamal Williams getting the bulk of the workload in Detroit and seen very little of DeAndre Swift. In fact, he was basically sharing the second role with Justin Jackson. This past week, he came on and got a 50+% snap share, just over 50%. I want to say 51 or 52. It was pretty effective, but he shows up limited with the ankle issue. The injury report today. That's a little concerning. And Jamal Williams, obviously he's leading the league with 14 rushing touchdowns. I think you can play him any given week, but the Texans matchup looks like super favorable. And the thing is, for Dallas, might they get up and be a blowout? Sure, we saw that last week. Didn't come until the fourth quarter, and the guys you wanted to scored the points up to that point. So blowouts don't really scare me. The Hopkins versus New England or Kirk versus Tennessee, that's a little trickier to me. So I already heard Bill Belichick talking this week about DeAndre Hopkins, what a great player he is. And you know what Bill Belichick's thinking. He's got to stop the most dangerous piece of any offense. And so, maybe a little foreshadowing there for Hopkins. I would still play Hopkins over Christian Kirk. It's a pretty good matchup for Christian Kirk. But, are there issues at quarterback there? Trevor Lawrence, guy that's nicked up, says he plans to play. My guess is he will play. One of the problems for Jacksonville against Tennessee in the past, though, has been Derrick Henry. He keeps him off the field. He just runs up and down the field. So some concerns there. I'd still lean Hopkins. Charles Davis for PPR need two from George Perkins versus Baltimore, Darius Slayton versus Philadelphia, Michael Gallup versus Houston. Also have Mike Williams. I'm not sure of his status. If Mike Williams is playing, I'd probably want to play him. That's a Sunday night game, though. So you have to wonder, if he gets into the limited work and practice all week, if he doesn't get a questionable designation, it's always a little bit of a hassle going into a Sunday night. So you may want to avoid that. So I get that. Perkins had not a great game and it's a pretty tough matchup. Deontay Johnson was a little more heavily used, and Perkins let him know. Let Kenny Pickett know. Throw him the effing ball, please, sir. And so, Mike Tomlin, not taking knocks, said he'd rather tell a guy whoa than sick him. So, look, George Pickens wants to be the guy. I said Pickens. I will correct you, Charles. Darius Slayton, I think I would play even in a tough matchup. Michael Gallup, I think he's fine against Houston. I probably rank them Slayton, Gallup, and then Perkins, Pickens. And if Williams playing, I'd probably play him over Gallup. Thinking of starting James Conner versus New England or Mike Evans versus San Francisco, I'd probably play James Conner for the anticipated volume. There is no other back there. It's a pretty tough defense. So is San Francisco, although you can't throw against them. It's just Tampa Bay's offense. We have these great feelings about them after games because they finish strong. Their wins, they've been great in their wins, but have they been great? No, they're not scoring a ton of points. And Mike Evans has had an issue, and I think they talked about it last week. Todd Bowles talked about it, and Mike Evans talked about it. Why isn't he getting the kind of targets? Why isn't he having the success he has had in the past with Tom Brady? And basically, his routes are longer developing plays, and they don't have the pass protection. If Donovan Smith isn't holding, somebody else is missing blocks, and so it's been a little bit of an issue for him. So I think that's probably what makes the difference for me. Andrea needs one D1. You have Devontae Smith versus the New York Giants, Zay Jones versus Tennessee, DJ Chark versus who is Detroit playing? I remember this. Either way, Minnesota. I'd probably play Smith against the Giants over Zay Jones. Had a lot of drops last week. I want to say 3 for sure. Some might say more. Dealing with a chest injury, it's not going to keep him from playing, but does it keep him from making all the plays? Maybe so, based on what we saw last week. It's a good matchup for him, but I'm going to play Smith versus the Giants. Ken Walker or nobody in Seattle, none of those backups have any upside. I would tend to agree with that. I mean, but not everyone has those, not everyone has that option, right? So I don't know that Walker's going to play. Pete Carroll is always very optimistic. So I tend to be inversely proportional to him. The more optimistic Pete Carroll is, the more pessimistic I am. I don't think Ken Walker's going to play. They're calling it jammed ankle, meaning it's not sprained. He didn't roll one side or the other, not a high sprain, but this seems dicey to me. DJ Dallas did come back in the game after he hurt his ankle. So if I was in a bind, it would be him, then Homer, then Tony Jones Jr. They signed Wayne Gallman to the practice squad. Maybe he ends up being the guy when all is said and done. But ideally, Will Power, you are correct. None of them, if at all possible. Dwayne Swanger. Need 2 of these. Pacheco, Foreman, or Akers. Bye weeks suck so bad. They do. Pacheco, though, is a great play. Foreman, you're going to want to watch. He missed today's practice. Coming off the bye with a foot injury, he was not ideal. For him to be practicing, but my guess is he'll be fine once the week rolls around. If he is, he's the easy call for Pacheco and Foreman. And if Foreman has issues, we aren't going to know that. Yeah, I'm probably going to. This makes it very tough, Dwayne. Do you have any other options at all? Put them down at the bottom. I'll find it. I'll catch up to them in the comments. I would like to have a different pivot. I don't have to be forced to play Akers. So maybe you watch and see if Foreman gets any work in at all. If he goes from non-practice Wednesday to limited practice Thursday, you can learn that at the Football Diehards website. I put the injury updates up in real time, so you'll have that during the day, long in advance of kickoff. Maybe then you can say, okay, he's trending in a good direction, but also you want to still have a fallback plan. So if that's not possible, maybe you're forced to play Akers. If that's the case, I'd play him over Foreman just due to the uncertainty. But I'd much rather play Foreman. Tough one to play. Start to a high. Standard league, please pick 3. Wide receiver Pickens versus Baltimore, DJ Moore versus Seattle, Mike Williams and Josh Palmer versus Miami, or Gabe Davis versus Jets. Again, please pick 3. Probably DJ Moore, who seems like he's back in the good graces, or at least the offense a little bit with Sam Darnold back in a quarterback. I would go with the Williams or Palmer, and I would go with Gabe Davis and hope for the upside. Look, I'm not against Pickens. But it's against Baltimore, and also he didn't excel in a plus matchup, which he should have crushed in Atlanta. So probably going to dial back on that a little bit. He's a capable playmaker. I'm not totally dismissive of him, but I just think those other options are better. Charles Davis, DJ Moore at Seattle, or Josh Palmer versus Miami for PPR. That one's pretty close. I mean, it's probably going to depend on if there's Mike Williams or not. You may not know that until the evening time, right? So I'll probably just go ahead and play DJ Moore here and play it safe, unless we get some news, early in the week. If we get news on Friday, if Mike Williams is ruled out, which he has been the last couple of weeks, Oh, is my audio not terrible, but not great? We'll work on that. We'll try and but watch the injury reports. I think that's going to be the key there. So if there is no Mike Williams, or you find that out on Friday, easy call for DJ Moore. Maybe you can take that out till Saturday or whatever if you want, but more if you need to. More seems like a safe enough play. One more if you can. Of course you can, Chuck. Off the waiver wire, Tyler Conklin versus Buffalo or Noah Fant versus Panthers. I've had this very decision. I picked up and I split it. In one league, I picked up Conklin, and one league, I picked up Fant. The difference between Conklin and Fant to me is there's three options in Seattle, right? Will Disley is there, Cody Parkinson is there. There's two options, and we haven't seen much of CJ Uzama. It's mostly been Conklin, but it hasn't been great as of late. So I split it. If I had to pick one, my gut says Conklin. Play your gut if you have a hunch. Go ahead and play it. Um, but I'm going Conklin there. Charles Davis, I have it. I have Lamar Jackson and Justin Fields. I'm turning to Jared Goff versus Minnesota over Huntley. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Absolutely fine with it. Yep. I mean, Tyler Huntley is has good rushing upside, but I mean, Goff has shown time after time he's got things like Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's got an emerging DJ Chark. If what we saw last week wasn't a mirage, he's got Josh Reynolds, who he has some chemistry with. He has a great receiving option out of the backfield in DeAndre Swift. And maybe Jameson Williams at some point becomes a thing. It seems entirely possible. He's very fast. So yeah, I'd probably take Goff over Huntley as well. Hello, Remy. So you guys are on so many places basically every day. Fantasy analyst, your full-time job. That is correct, Will Power. Full-time year-round, we have magazines. You can see Fantasy Football Pro Forecast. We've been doing that for 30 years now. Have 5 different magazines. So yeah, it's a year-round full-time job, and we pay a lot of attention to things. So don't have all the correct answers, but certainly have all the information to help you make answers. Thank you, Marlon. Greg Dulcich or Hunter Henry? I'd go Dulcich there. I mean, I think I could play Henry any week, and you're hoping you get that touchdown. That offense has been horrible and lousy in the red zone, and quarterbacks yelling at the coaches, and Kendrick Bourne. How long is Kendrick Bourne going to be around after some comments post game that the coaches aren't doing a great job? We'll see about that. Thank you. I like the background too. This is planned. We have some plans for this thing. We had some issues with the sound. Hopefully, we've got that mostly cured. But we've got plans. Trust me, we'll get there. And more guests, things like that, but also your questions. And on Saturday, nothing but your questions. Chuck Bachman again for the prior insight. Zeke over Jamal and D Hop over Kirk. That's correct for a flex in Kirk versus Tennessee or Williams. I'd probably go Williams there. Again, maybe I'm overstating this. I think Kirk is fine. I think it's a great matchup. I do think Trevor Lawrence is going to play. Is he going to be full go? Probably good enough for that. And my concern is always Derrick Henry just dominates this team, much like he dominates Houston slightly less, but against the Jaguars over the course of time. And we see more of that. I feel comfortable playing Williams. I don't think we're going to see the Swift 50+% workload every week. I still think, like, if I'm sitting here and I have to decide between those two, it's Williams. I'm starting with Swift every time. Tennessee, not easy to run against, but look, touchdowns are very difficult to predict, and yet Jamal Williams has one of those every damn week, right? So has 14 of them. Has won 4 every week. Hasn't done one every week. I get it. PPR for Dwayne Swanger. Burks, if healthy. Zay Jones and or Corey Davis. Burks for sure if healthy. And I mean, I don't even love this passing attack, but he seems to be the piece we would have. I would go Zay Jones slightly. Corey Davis had 10 targets this past week, so maybe you watch that and see if he's healthy. Pretty favorable, favorable passing matchup again, but the same concerns I have with Kirk, I have for Jones, and I have additional concerns because he dropped so many passes. So maybe Corey Davis is the answer over Zay Jones. Very busy last week. Look, Garrett Wilson is going to be the lead piece there of the receiving corps. And then it's going to be between Elijah Mitchell and Davis. I think Davis is, a reasonable play any given week. Thoughts on Rashid Shaheed, rest of the season and beyond? He's been super efficient. Right? Like, I don't know that he has a big enough role for the rest of this season for me to want to play it. But I think, he's a player I'll be watching going forward. Like, clearly they have a need for playmakers, and he's been, he's made plays, right? And he also gets a lot of return work, etc. If you're in a league where, you're getting points for return, yes, definitely get him in your lineup. Him, Braxton Berrios, guys like that are viable plays. And Shaheed, more upside, it seems to be the receiver there as well. So, not a guy I'm looking to get in the lineups the rest of this season, but maybe next year as he develops. So I dropped Pickens for Gallup. Dak is my quarterback this week. So last week was great. 2 touchdowns was fantastic. It's a great matchup, although it's great a passing matchup against Houston, but mostly because nobody has to pass against them. Everyone can run against them with impunity. That might be the case again this week, though. So I worry a little bit that there's going to be enough meat on the bone for all these receivers to feast. So I don't know that I'd go that far. I'm probably still playing Pickens there. Could Kamara be a league winner? Not unless they use him. That's been a problem, man. The usage for Kamara has been a mess. I'll just look up the numbers here. Lousy game this past week, by the way, but I just want to see the usage over recent weeks has not been good. You're looking at the carries. You go back to the Seattle game, he had 23. It was fantastic. He had 19 against Cincinnati after that, and 11, then 18 against Vegas. Pretty good. But then since then, 9, 8, 12, 7, 12. It's not been great, right? And in addition to the lack of workload, the production hasn't been great, and he hasn't got a ton of targets either. He hasn't hit double-digit targets since I want to say week 8. So, and really, that's the only week he's hit double-digit targets. Yeah, pretty good target shares leading up to that 8, 9, 6, 9, 9, 10, then 4, 4, 5, 7, 3. Just his offense is not playing well, and so he has league-winning talent, but he is not a league winner at this point. I don't think. I don't think. I hate to say that. I know you did. Yeah, and yeah, you could hit the like button, but also hit the subscribe button down below if you want to catch this. I'm here again every Wednesday at 8 p.m., every Saturday at noon Eastern time for my Ask Me Anything, and we'll get into these lineup questions. We'll have a little better idea of what's going on with the injury issues and kind of figure it out. Always, we're sitting here and we have a certain amount of information on Wednesday. It's like looking at the board on, or if you play the Wordle, you have like 2 letters turned over and it looks like one word, and that third letter gets turned over, it looks like a totally different word, right? That's how the difference between Wednesday and Saturday is. You have more letters turned over. It's much easier to solve the puzzle. And yes, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, go to the website. If you haven't subscribed, you're only paying the prorated rate, and also use the promo code Diehards and get a discount. All those things, 15%. Craig Schmucker would like to know after he told everyone to hit the like button, and I agree with him. Hit the like button or hit the dislike button if you don't like me. Either way, the algorithm will. Deshaun or Huntley? I'm playing Huntley over Deshaun. I don't need to play Deshaun until I see Deshaun play well. Deshaun did not play well against Houston. Everyone saw it. And so it's funny, we had a caller take us to task, Mike Dempsey and I myself, on the radio show on Saturday night, basically saying, you told us to hold on to Watson. Why wouldn't we play him this week? Because we were telling people, don't, hold off if you don't have better options. Like, go ahead and play Justin Fields coming off that injury. Just not crazy. Play Tua over Watson, yes. And the caller's, lament was that we had told them to draft Watson and hold on to him all year. Well, why wouldn't we play him as soon as he gets in? Well, because other guys developed and were better, and opportunities arose, and people rose to those opportunities. I mean, there's a lot of reasons, and so if you have a reasonably good option, I think Huntley, with his rushing equity, has that reasonable upside. I'd probably rather play that. I don't need to play Watson until I see Watson playing at a Watson-like level. Does that mean I might miss out on a great game? Entirely possible. Hopefully, Huntley has an equally good game. Thank you, Chuck. That's very kind of you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that as well, Pat B. Graham, hey, Bob. Half-point PPR, Isaiah McKenzie against the Jets, or Slayton versus the Brutal Eagles secondary. I'm going to play Slayton against the Brutal Eagles secondary. I talked a little bit about this already, but I'll just kind of rehash it. If you want to play Buffalo players, I'm not going to talk you out of playing any Buffalo player. right? They're all capable any given week. And I think Isaiah McKenzie has kind of proven to have a nice little role there. At some point, it sounds like Jameson Crowder will be back before the end of the season, but he's more of a postseason run. But Slayton is the frontline piece, and I get it. You probably get some Darius Slay treatment, and Bradbury's good if Slay isn't on him. But Slayton has been pretty solid, and I'm playing the volume, and I tend to play anticipated volume, right? And so if you have a hunch on Isaiah McKenzie, or you feel more comfortable with the matchup, it's not a great matchup, right? For the versus the Jets defense, it's pretty tough as well. He's not going to see Sauce Gardner, but it's not the best matchup on earth there either. So I might go a little bit more for the anticipated volume, but I do think McKenzie's more of a swing for the fence play. So if you're in a position where like maybe some guys starting the Thursday night game, and maybe you're playing against Josh Jacobs and Devontae Adams or something crazy like that, you're going, oh my God, I need big scoring. Maybe then you go with the swing for the fence play like McKenzie and hope he gets in the end zone. Darth Tua has his last question for me. Standard flex, ETN versus Tennessee or Pickens versus Baltimore. I'm playing ETN. I know it wasn't great this past week, but I'm always going to play like a true feature back over a wide receiver. Even a wide receiver one, this offense for Pittsburgh is not, I'm not enthusiastic. Najee Harris is coming on. There's no doubt about it, right? Najee Harris is, and so I've been talking about this a little bit this week. If you've caught me out there speaking on the radio or whatnot, a lot of disappointing players went in the first round, right? Or the second round, players that are not coming through. This is the time they can change the percentage. This is the most important part of our season. Maybe Jonathan Taylor, you feel like has let you down as the first pick overall. Looking at it that way, he has. That doesn't mean he's going to destroy your season. We're hitting the stretch run here where the games are all important. We've seen Jonathan Taylor's workload rise back up. We've seen him do a little more with it. Not on like a tear like he was late last season, but that was a pretty historic tear. But he's been pretty good, and the volume is there, and get some touchdowns. Maybe you're going to be very happy with what you got out of it when all is said and done, right? So, just generally speaking, we're going to have a lot of players that maybe we've been disappointed in, and maybe we're looking to start other players over. But the story is not written until the end of the year, especially on these first round picks. Guys like Joe Mixon. If he comes back, I know we're looking at Samaje Perine's been better than him. I think Samaje Perine's better for this offense. Well, in Mixon's case, there's something to note is they made some shifts to their overall blocking scheme and the play calling about the coincidental with Joe Mixon coming on. So Joe Mixon's good games. He doesn't have all of them weren't good. It was a tough start early, but maybe he'll be every bit as good as Samaje Perine going forward, maybe better, right? So you just don't know how these things are going to end up. From where we're at now till the end of the season is still a long time. It's week 14. The playoffs aren't upon us yet. There may be guys that save you in the playoffs that you're really down on right now. So there we have it. Just don't keep making level-headed decisions. Play guys in good offenses. ETN, maybe not been everything we wanted him to be, but that doesn't mean he can't have a great stretch run. Look, it's good enough for them to move on from James Robinson, and he's a huge big play threat. So I'm going to go ahead and play that over Pickens in a not great offense, at least in terms of the wide receiving. Again, Harris is coming on a little bit. Maybe Harris is a guy at the end of the season. It wasn't as bad as we thought. Chris Clark does not love his wide receiver two options. Would I go Slayton or Gabe Davis there? Depends on what I want. Probably I think most people would just say Gabe Davis because the investment in Gabe Davis was higher. And I'm not necessarily against that, but he's super high end, right? I mean, it's been hit or miss for him. Let me go look at his points. I'm going to lean Slayton just for the volume, but realize that the matchup is very tough. Let's not Davis' numbers here because I think it bears, I think it's worth noting. Yes, I've done this before because I'm curious about this, right? So Gabe Davis, we go back to week 1, nice game, 18 points, did nothing against Tennessee, was hurt. Then 6 points, then 2 points, then a huge game against Pittsburgh, 32 points, then 16 points, serviceable against Kansas City, then 5 points, then 5 points, then 21 points, then 11 points, then 7 points, then 9 points. That's the variance you're going to get with Gabe Davis. He's a high variance player with huge upside. But if you need that huge upside, I'm not against that. If you need the more steadier Eddie, Darius Slayton's been a bit of that, right? That just, not a lot of other pieces there to help Daniel Jones out. He's been kind of going going that way. And like Slayton didn't come on for a while. It took him a little bit to get up to speed or get back in the good graces of the coaches. But the last few weeks has been pretty solid. I want to go back to like Jacksonville in week 8, 11 points, 18 points, 13 points, 9 points, 15 points. So you kind of see the difference there. You're getting just a little higher floor for him, in my estimation. So if you need the floor, you're not looking to, don't need one player to win you the game, then it's probably Darius Slayton as your choice. You need one player who might be capable of winning you the game, probably Gabe Davis. If he gets willpower, if you get James Cook tonight, I'm going to drop Gus for Mason. Yeah, I guess if you have CMC, that's not a bad move. I mean, I'm not ready to totally give up on Gus. He's still a good runner, but obviously the confusion there is that came from Kenyon Drake getting the majority of the work, just didn't see it coming, came out of the clear blue. And I don't think there's a tell. I literally was talking to Ravens beat writers last week, and I don't think anyone expected that outcome. And so maybe we get J.K. Dobbins back this week, and that further dilutes that backfield. If not this week, then it's going to be soon, right? So yeah, I'd probably go ahead and do that. Mason looks like he's definitely the next man up, so I think that makes perfectly good sense there. Just checking some news here. And nothing too exciting there. Nothing we didn't know. Devo and McCaffrey both limited over the week. Christian McCaffrey, that's good news. Last week he sat out. Good thing to get to know these players and kind of the habits and how they get rested. Like Derrick Henry never practices on Wednesday. He sits out and rests. A lot of players rest on Wednesday. That was the plan for McCaffrey all along in Carolina, was to rest him on Wednesdays. Then he started not resting on Wednesdays. Then he missed a Wednesday and everyone panicked. What the hell? Now in San Francisco, he's limited. Last week he didn't practice. No panic. He'll be fine. But also, yeah, not a bad idea having Mason. Andrea, Michael Carter versus Buffalo, Knight versus Buffalo, or Rashad White versus San Francisco. Need one. Yeah, that's tough, Andrea. Boy. I mean, so we heard what Robert Saleh said today. Knight is still going to have a role. Is it going to be the leading role? Does Michael Carter come back to the leading role? Is he healthy enough? He's off the injury report. Rashad White, I'll tell you, watching that game Monday night, I thought Leonard Fournette seemed very motivated by not being the starter, right? And that's kind of what, that's going to be a hot hand situation there, right? So maybe it's a New York situation. So maybe we just look at the matchups. The thing about White and Leonard Fournette going against San Francisco is if they're not running, they're still pretty big parts of the passing attack. Same for Michael Carter. Better matchup for the Jets. Maybe better roles for White and Fournette. I'm probably going to lean White here because I feel like I have a better understanding what the role is going to be. But ask me this again Saturday, Andrea. Because, again, I'm going with what Robert Saleh said, and he just said, Knight is still going to have a role. He's not going away. So maybe James Robinson's inactive. Maybe we see no Ty Johnson. And we just see a split with Michael Carter and Knight. And maybe Knight, depending on the game script, gets the heavier workload as the between the tackles guy. So I would like to reserve my take on this one. I see no Thursday players in this question, Andrea, so let's wait. Thanks for the advice. Appreciate Dwayne. I appreciate everyone showing up every week. It's been always a good time and helps me kind of solidify my thoughts and theories as I sit here and grind away every day. Jameson Williams, Detroit, or Zay Jones, PPR. I'm going to play Zay Jones here. I don't know what Jameson Williams is going to do yet. He did get on the field. I mean, how long is it going to take him to, carve out a little bit of a role? I mean, he's a dangerous player. Any play, he can run past everyone on the field. So he's got that going for him. But that's hard for me to play, though. I'm playing Zay Jones. I'm playing the more certain role. Willpower, D-Bro thinks Cook can be a league winner. So, Mike Dempsey thinks so, too. And Derek is a pretty sharp cookie. I mean, I think the thing, he has to definitely better upside than any of the Baltimore running backs going forward. There's no doubt. And I think maybe he does become the dominant piece. I don't think Devin Singletary is going away, and I think he's still going to have a role. And my problem, again, with this offense is there's 2 players I want to start and a bunch of players I can start, and that includes both running backs right now. So if you want to take Cook has the momentum, I think there's a pretty reasonable argument to be made for it, but it's one game of momentum. I mean, he's been coming on a little bit, over the course of time. But last week was the first week that it looked like he was moving ahead. So, look, he has the playmaking ability to be a league winner. Does he have the makeup? Has he got the physical build to handle the full workload? I mean, it's a short period of time, so I'm guessing he does. But over the long term, I don't know. But yes, would rather probably have him than any of the Baltimore running backs. Got to gloat. Rashad White got that late second touchdown to clinch the playoffs in one league. He wasn't in all drive until the last play. It was interesting too because I mentioned it, but I thought Leonard Fournette looked plenty motivated. He was running plenty hard. None of these guys were going great guns as runners. They're both going better as receivers. But White, that touchdown was a big difference maker for a lot of people. These hot hand situations are going to be tough for us though, especially going forward. Remember, the Buccaneers are in the thick of it, right? Because it's the NFC South. Everyone's in the thick of it. There's nobody there that's not in the thick of it. So interesting to see how that plays out. But I do think thinking that White's going to continue as a starter, generally in hot hand situations, to me the starter gets the favorite status, over the second guy because first guy in has a chance to get the hot hand first, right? I mean, it seems like oversimplification because I don't think it's as easy. I don't think that. I mean, you can sit there and look at the matchup and try and divine which player maybe is better suited to a matchup. But both these guys in Tampa Bay have a pretty similar skill set. I would say Leonard Fournette looks like a more powerful runner, but both of them are capable of catching the football. Both of them capable of runners. So just who gets the hot hand is never going to be easy to figure out. Andrea, I need to win. Lost by 2 last week. Ugh. Hit me on Saturday with that one question. I just honestly, if you made me pick right now, it'd probably be White or Knight right now over White because it's the tougher matchup. Leonard Fournette specter hanging over me, but I don't have like complete confidence. I'd like to hear a little more of the local reporting overnight on what Salah said about Knight and where exactly is Carter. I mean, off the injury report, it's pretty good. Will Power Cook will not be starting for me unless I have a running back injury. I think that's fair enough. And look, maybe he is. Maybe Derek Brown is correct. And by the way, Derek Brown, great work over there. Good dude. Um, Maybe he's correct. Look, every year there's a running back that comes out of nowhere that wins somebody a fantasy title. It is almost guaranteed, right? So, if I'm looking across the wide spectrum of players in the league who might do that, he's certainly got to be on that list. I don't know that guarantees he does it, but opportunities, an explosive offense, yes, those are some of the ingredients you need. And playmaking ability, he has that as well. Patrick Murphy is really struggling with tight end. Moreau, Higbee, Hunter Henry, Chig, Okonkwo, or Kate Otten. I love Chig. Dude, this guy, not in redraft, not this year. It's hard to know when to play him. He's been coming on a little bit. He's a different guy, right? I think in Dynasty, I'm trying to get him in as many rosters as I can. He looks like a difference making player when it all comes together. He's a difference making athlete. Let's rephrase that. Looks like a difference making athlete. Will he be a difference making NFL player? We'll see. The early signs to me are really good. But for this year, it's hard for me. I think I like Moreau a little better than the others, at the moment going in, assuming there is no Darren Waller tomorrow, and you'll know that in advance kickoff. It would probably. I can't handle the quarterback situation for Los Angeles with Higbee. It's just hard to figure out. Hunter Henry, I mean, like his nose for the end zone, like a lot about him. Don't like the offense that much. It's just been a struggle, and especially struggling in the red zone is one of the places they're really having trouble. So probably not there. Kate Otten is a capable scorer. We'll see. Cameron Brate should be back this week. That makes it a little tough. Andrea has Leonard Fournette too. Adding to the intrigue, Andrea. Couldn't make this a simple one, could you? A multiple, complex, compounding thing. Like again, if you made me decide right now, I feel like I'd lead Knight. I don't know if I just given the matchups and given the little bit of momentum he has, but it's really super hunchy there, Andrea. So give me a little time. Let's hit it again Saturday. Got time for some more questions if you have them. In the meantime, just bringing up a couple of the newsy items that we were, kind of discussing leading into the show. If you weren't here and you missed them, Baker Mayfield, possible he'll be active, possibly could play for the Rams this week, and that tells you where the Rams are exactly. Lamar Jackson likely to miss 1 to 3 weeks, almost certainly going to miss this week. Jimmy Garoppolo not going to play again for our purposes. Little talk that if the Niners make it deep into the playoffs, he could have a role. Kyle Shanahan kind of, sounded like not like real enthusiastic about that possibility. Because why? If they get deep into the postseason, who got them there? Brock Purdy. Kenneth Walker did not practice today. They just had a walkthrough, so they're kind of downplaying it. DJ Dallas also didn't practice. Travis Homer was on the field. I don't know to what level. Joe Mixon worked fully today, so it seems likely he is cleared or close to cleared and will play. Trevor Lawrence, no practice, says he plans to play. Treylon Burks, no practice in the concussion protocol. Cortland Sutton, no practice, not expected to play. Mike Williams, limited practice, seems like he's heading back. Patrick Mahomes and Tua Tagovailoa, both a little nicked up, but both should be fine to play come the weekend. And Mills is back as your starting quarterback for everybody's favorite team, the Houston Texans. So good news there. Again, a few more minutes if you got time. I got a little more time for questions if you have them. If you don't have them, appreciate you coming in. I'll be back Saturday, noon Eastern time. Same deal. Nothing but your lineup questions with more information to make better informed decisions. And that's always key. Like, right? We do this on Wednesday night. Some of you have decisions to make now, whether it's waiver wire, other decisions that can't hold off. Try and get you serviced on those. But on Saturday, we have a little more robust knowledge of what's going on. All right, IDP question. Poyer's back and looks pretty good, and Hufanga's been good as well. I'll probably go that direction. Buda Baker, like I like Buda Baker. I play the hell out of him, uh, and maybe not a lot. Well, maybe I like Poyer right now. Let's look at my scoring system on Hufanga. I've been playing him and I've had a lot of success. I may just stick. Also, we're calling the radio show, and Dempsey will have the finer points for the IDP that I know. I'm in Gary Davenport's Deathmatch IDP League. I'm the defending champion. Huge league. Very difficult league. Defending champion, and I'm smoked out of the playoffs this year. It happens. Happens to the best of us, and even to me. And I'm not the best of us, but even to me. 1 point last week. Yeah, I actually played him last week. Let's look. Look in the league I got. I might have had a little better luck for them last week than you did. Yeah, my scoring system must be a little different than yours. Got a couple of points. Probably Baker then. So yes, I will be doing these during the fantasy playoffs. I'll do these all the way through the regular season. I'll probably do some in the postseason as well for people who like to play in the DFS tournaments and whatnot for the postseason play. And I have done these in the past in the off season. I will probably do them again. I don't know if we'll do it every week, but we do these in the off season as well. So I'll be back at Saturday at noon Eastern time. Jamie Calandro and Eric Romont will be here. Is it Saturday night this week, people? Correct me if I'm wrong. I'll go ahead and say Saturday now, 9 p.m. The DFS lineup show. They'll have ownership percentages, kind of help you go through all the matchups and get you, get you on point and give you some serious help on setting those DFS lineups. I like to do the radio show at that point in time, but after the radio show, as I'm doing more writing, I re-listen to the playback of that and get tons of good information as I head into Sundays. So once again, I'm Bob Harris. You can find me at footballdiehards.com. It's a website if you want to go there. Check it out. Lots of good information. Great columns from Jamie Calandro, Evan Tarciano, Casey Joyner's blue-rated matchups, wide receiver matchups will be out there. Brad Cruz and his Sim Stardom is fantastic. He's a great high-stakes player. Will help you out as well. All the DFS content from Jamie, Justin, myself, Gary Davenport, Shadow Knows, great piece as well. Early in the week, Evan Tarciano did not get his waiver wire piece up this week, but he'll be back next week. And Joey Colano with the early injury report and the waiver wire look. And Matthew Sharon with the dollars for free agents. Of course, Reginald James with the commissioner article. Every week, Commissioner HQ is fantastic reading. Even if you're not commissioner, it's very entertaining. Catch me on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. That's a Monday night 10 p.m., Thursday night 10 p.m., Friday night 10 p.m., only until midnight, 1 p.m. the other 2 nights, 1 a.m. 10 to midnight on Friday nights, and then Saturday 8 to 11. You can catch me and Mike Dempsey on both NFL Radio and the Fantasy Channel simulcast. Get in your calls. We take a ton of calls there and answer a ton of questions. Toll-free numbers for the radio show, 888-963-2682. If you hit my Twitter feed, you'll find it there during the shows. And Saturday nights we do tons of questions. Thursday and Monday nights too. So not so many on Sunday, but we do fit in a few with Jeff Mans and myself. So tune in, everybody. And again, I'll be back Saturday at noon Eastern time for more Ask Me Anything and your questions, lineup questions, etc. So see you then. Thanks, everyone, for coming. I'll look forward to